Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the ESL Hearthstone Legendary Series. We're one match in. We just saw Luigi's take down Azuzu in a very quick 3-0 fashion.
Really strong play from Luigi's. I'm happy to see players just play well instead of get nervous and make some, errors here and there. Like we go back and watch some of the stream on delay ourselves. That's right. TJ and I do ghost the stream from time to time. And we look back and just see the game. It's like, yeah, would you rather have a swipe or a big game hunter towards the end of that Rogue versus Druid game? It's one of those things where, unfortunately, there's not many other targets other than Dr. Boom in a Rogue deck, an oil Rogue deck. And there's many times where he could have helped clear the board a little bit better or even push for potential lethal. And these small little decisions end up costing Azuzu, and Luigi just took the game. I think it just goes to show you that Luigi is definitely a really strong technical player. Oil Rogue is one of the more complicated decks. And it was a really well-done series from his behalf.
Yeah, you can look on the surface and say, oh, well, he didn't have wild growth in the first couple of games. But there's small little decisions like that that really make the difference. So next match is going to be Koroneko versus Luffy. The winner of this will go on to face Luigi's in the semifinals. We talked a little about Luffy before, but Koroneko, he's a player. He recently got picked up by Hearthletics. That was after his run to the Legendary Series. He's a Japanese player.
He's got a really interesting lineup, too. Mage, Druid, and Warlock. He's got two classes that are interesting tech. He's not bringing Warrior. Only a couple players here are not bringing Warrior today, and he's one of them.
Yeah. His Mage deck, when I was talking to him, he's really animated. His English is pretty good.
Koroneko?
Yeah. His English is... And Luffy, no. His English is pretty good, but he really tries hard. Even though he's Japanese, he wants to be able to stream. He wants to learn English. When I told him what's his favorite thing, he's a student. When I told him what's his favorite thing to study, he said English. So like his dream is becoming like a popular
player in the West.
Streamer in the West. Yeah, that's his goal in Hearthstone. And he says that he wants to make a name for himself. It's not just about winning this. It's about winning this not for the money, not just for the experience of this tournament, but winning this to make a name for himself and become big and start getting followers on the stream and stuff like that.
He is the only player to play Mage today, so that is a way to make a name for himself. In the meantime, he's going to have to go down against, or bring it down against Luffy, who apparently is on Team Never Lucky, so 8K doesn't have a team.
Yeah.
Luffy's got Warlock, Hunter, and Warrior. I almost get the same vibe that Luffy and Impact are like brothers. Or are they brothers? I'm just being like, no, there's no way.
Maybe.
But they have kind of like a similar look, and they practice together all the time, so I wasn't sure if they maybe like, just really good friends and couples that spend a lot of time together start looking like each other.
It happens sometimes. Never Lucky, though, I mean, it's a legitimate team. He's been on Never Lucky for a while. It's not like there wasn't like an official announcement or anything, but Just Saying's on that team as well.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
he's definitely a part of, like, Just Saying's a really, really good player.
Yeah, so they definitely have a lot of practice partners. They hang out with a lot of really high legend players. I mean, everybody always name drops Zixo, but Zixo literally is in every practice group, it feels like. But
I like that you say Zixo with a Z.
Zixo.
It's Sixo.
Zixo.
Like with an S. Sixo.
I just put the X before the S. Is it really
Except after
Sixo?
C. It's Sixo, like number 6. Like, he always talks about people calling his name as he writes the number 6 and he writes the number 0.
Whenever I hear him pronounce it, it sounds like Zixo.
Sure. All right, so Mage versus the Hunter start things off. Is this Freeze Mage, you think? Where would Freeze Mage fit in the current metagame? Since Warrior is popular, and Control Warrior to shut down the Patron Warrior would be popular, it feels like Freeze Mage wouldn't be that good.
Yeah. Freeze Mage, there's still a lot of players that think Freeze Mage is really strong, but I just don't see where that comes from. With, like you said, Warrior's such a popular class right now. Even like Hunter, like the mid-range Hunter is super popular right now. Druid, it's like when a player's lineup is like Warrior, Druid, and Hunter, which we've seen lots of Warrior, Druid, Hunters over the past couple of days. Like, those are the 3 decks that usually fare the best against Freeze Mage. So I'm not sure why it's highly rated. I can imagine this is going to be some sort of tempo mage.
Yeah.
That's what we've come to see over the past couple weeks, is players leaning towards different variations of tempo mage.
The thing about Freeze Mage is that it's so good against aggro, and if aggro's good, Freeze Mage gets a lot better. just because it's so consistent with its draws. It can shut down the aggro. It can combo really well.
Yeah.
Freeze Mage is decent against control decks. It's just the mid-range deck really gives it a problem because of the burst and the combinations.
Yeah, that's pretty true. But then there's a situation where that deck could become a liability if someone doesn't bring a good aggro deck. Like, Ignite got into a position like that when he played in his regular season Legendary Series week. He brought Freeze Mage, and he struggled to find wins with it because all the players were playing very control-heavy styles. There was a lot of Warriors that week. There was a lot of Druids that week. And he fell in the round after thinking that Freeze Mage was going to carry him. It was the same with Ostkaka. So it just starting to get phased out a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Looks like we have a little bit of a pause just before we actually start the series. But I'm curious to see what's going to happen. One of these guys are going to the offline finals. Pretty cool if we have a guy from Japan do it. Japan's been known to be prolific into the card game scene back in other CCGs like Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, even Pokemon. I don't really know too much about Japan in other games, but I do know that in card games specifically, they really enjoy it. Hearthstone, of course, is this weird fusion because I know in Japan, PC gaming is not really as prevalent just because they don't really associate PC gaming too much with like a very social thing. It's more of like a private in your bedroom type of thing versus like arcades and FGC type of thing. That's why Japan players are like really good at Street Fighter and NPC, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, console fighting games.
Yeah, and then now that Hearthstone is going to be out on mobile and it's less PC, I wonder if Japanese players will start gravitating towards it pretty heavily and start enjoying it more because it's a really fun game. And it's cool to see some international diversity.
Yeah, we're actually starting to see a couple of Japanese players break out on the scene. We saw Cross over the past couple of days, and Cross and Koroneko, they're friends with each other, and they said the Japanese Hearthstone community, even though it's small, is a tight-knit group of guys.
I would imagine so. It's kind of like Korea in a way. Korea is so tight, and Greenwich is like so dominant because no one else really plays at his level in Korea. But you just pretty much know everybody in the local scene when there's not that many people. Versus in Europe and America, the scene is really big, so it's hard to be friends with everybody.
Yeah, Greenwich actually competed in a couple of the Open Legendary Series matches. A couple of these players actually beat Greenwich on their way here. I believe Modern Leper was one of them that we saw yesterday. So we were very close to seeing Greenwich, but we did not.
Well, maybe we can get an opportunity to see Greenwich in a future season. Unfortunately, you probably can't compete in the North American qualifiers for the last call qualifier. So why don't you go ahead and talk about that, TJ, while we have a second here.
Yeah, last chance qualifier. That's going to take place, I believe, next week. It's an open qualifier for the last 8 spots at the Legendary Series Land Final. It's open to only North American players since it's so close to the Legendary Series Land Finals. Everybody outside of North America would have too much trouble getting a visa, getting a flight here in time. Due to like the time restraints of visas and whatnot. You can head over to legendaryseries.com to get more information. But if you are in North America and want your shot at competing in the Legendary Series Land Finals, head over there. I mean, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, pretty much. North America doesn't have many lands.
Once in a lifetime, TJ. It's definitely a cool opportunity, but
for some players.
For some players, it could be their
the summertime
opportunity to break out.
It's the summertime.
There will be more Hearthstone in the future, though, I think, to the point. Once in a lifetime, TJ?
I think so.
Once in a lifetime is like watching Kael'Thuzad come out of Sneasel Shatter 3 times in one series. That's once in a lifetime.
There are some players.
The chances of that is literally 1 in a million.
There are some players that would go to one LAN and then never play another competitive Hearthstone match in their life.
Okay, fair enough.
So
we'll get it an all-expenses-paid trip.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're selling this pretty hard to me. All right, maybe I'll sign up, TJ.
Okay. They told me I'm not allowed to sign up.
You're not allowed to sign up?
No.
What about me? Can I sign up?
I think you can sign up.
I'm hosting the event. I'm not necessarily a commentator.
Yeah, no. They said, we don't want to find another commentator, so you're not allowed to sign up. Which actually, I was flattered because they're saying, oh, you actually have a legitimate shot at making it, so you're not allowed to sign up. If they didn't have faith in me as a Hearthstone player, they would say, oh, yeah, Zuma, go sign up. Whatever. You're not going to even make it past the round of 128.
No, so that's why I'm allowed to, because they know I don't have a chance. Flame Strike already implies that it definitely is potentially one of those tempo decks or late game decks. It's not Mech Mage.
Looks like Freeze Mage.
It looks like Freeze Mage because of the Acolyte of Pain and the Thorson.
All right, well, bold moves by Koroneko. To bring Freeze Mage if that's the case.
Bold is one thing, but it might even be good depending on how many people bring the Control Warrior, but I don't think so because the winner of this plays Luffy, right?
Well, this is Luffy.
Oh, sorry, the winner of this plays Luigi's,
yeah,
the other guy that goes with L.
Yeah.
And if he wins, he has to play against a guy who has Control Warrior out today. So definitely not happy to see that on the first match. Koroneko, of course, he is going to have a pretty good time against Hunter. I think Freeze Mage has definitely gotten to a really good spot against Hunter overall, especially since Flare is not ran anymore.
Yeah.
People have started cycling Lotha about.
Mid-range Hunter has a little bit better of a chance.
Right, Lotha is usually in these decks.
Yeah. And it also has stickier creatures. You're not necessarily removing like all of their burn just with pings early on in the game. Like
True.
you have to stop the damage and deal with a pretty annoying board at most points. And they can do large amounts of burst in a single turn. Whereas Face Hunters, yeah, they have burst, but it's just like medium-sized pecks all the way until you die. Whereas mid-range Hunter is like, well, they can put out some damage early, but later in the game they can make big turns. If Savannah Highmane can swing to face on the same turn that Lotheb can swing to face because it came down the previous turn, couple that up with like a kill command, and you can force a mage to play defensively early on in a situation where they would otherwise be able to just try and develop their hand a little bit more, draw into some cards.
Yeah, I'm really liking the prototype Hunter nowadays. I was playing that on ladder today. Went something absurd like 11-1, 12-1.
Can confirm.
Yeah, TJ was watching it with me. It's really powerful because it gives you multiple options to play a more controlling type game or a more aggressive type game, while still keeping like that Hunter pressure level of like, oh, I just win games because I hit the face.
Yeah.
But you do have the ability to play more board centric. Huffer here is just solely that the opponent can't draw cards because the Acolyte won't be attacking. It'll just be a card source of ping. But I think I'm okay because you know that's not Ice Barrier, so I just want to get the Huffer damage in.
Just quite a bit of damage. Spectator on point, showing us Freezing Trap for the Hunter, Ice Block for the Mage. Even though we could have deduced. Deducted? Deduced?
Deduce is the correct term. The Thanos seems like a play that you can make here so that you can get another card draw, activate it, have the Acolyte attack next turn. It's just a little unfortunate because it seems like Thanos Ice Lance is the play here, and it's a little inefficient.
I wonder.
These early turns are actually pretty hard.
Right. I guess he could also ping his Acolyte if he wants to, and then wish for a Frostbolt, and if he doesn't, he Ice Lances.
Yeah. But that's out of... I guess you have to proc the Freezing Trap anyway, but not getting any value of the Acolyte early on.
Do you have to pop the Freezing Trap? I mean, you're a Freeze Mage.
You can just never attack into it.
Exactly.
Eventually, you're going to get a draw to that Acolyte of Pain.
This is so much damage done by Huffer. 8 damage with a kill command in hand. Oh, man. Wolf Rider comes in the hand. So he's got 5, 8, 12, and then he can keep weaving hero powers over 2 turns.
This matchup is one of the most important to weave hero power in every turn.
Yeah, although it starts getting more important as the mid-game starts coming on here. The minions here are generating the damage.
Yeah.
This is like a Frost Nova Doomsayer turn if your opponent has it. Frostbolt is it?
Frostbolt would have come last turn if he had pinged his own Acolyte. He would have had a lot easier of a way to deal with the board if he had done that and been able to preserve the draw from his Acolyte the following turn as well. But you can never count on that.
It's true, but it's you know, it's very results based.
Yeah.
Can't always estimate it based off that. But Frostbolt is a good card here, assuming that nothing too dangerous comes out of that Pilot Shredder. If you're afraid of the Pilot Shredder when it drops, you can just Ice Lance it. Wow, he just used the hold.
That's so much damage.
I mean, the thing is, Frostbolt effectively gains you a couple of hit points, which you could use at this point.
There's also a potential that it doesn't gain you any hit points, but it's likely to gain you at least one.
Well, I mean, that's why you can Ice Lance it.
I wonder.
Oh, instead of just Frostbolt.
Right.
But he's going to be put below 10 health this turn. That's so much pressure. He's not even close to even being able to use like a defensive Alexstrasza.
This is just way too much.
Yeah.
He can't hit Alexstrasza fast enough. If he Thorson's here... Actually, the Ice Bear is a really big draw. That's a really big draw. Now you just ping and play the Ice Barrier. But it's still within, like, kill command. Oh, man, that's actually really bad. He's still within kill command and hero power range.
Yeah.
So next turn, his opponent can coin Creeper, kill command, hero power if he plays his Ice Barrier. But the Ice Barrier is the better play. Thorson is, like, asking your... You really can't expect your opponent to, like, trade into Thorson. He's just going to go face and then pop the Ice Block. And this is, I mean, if I was him... Thinking about that Ice Lance, just sitting there, you know?
Yeah.
And Luffy recognizes his opportunity. He's going to go kill command and coin hero power. And then now he just has to hope his opponent doesn't draw into the second Ice Block.
Yeah. And even if he does, well, there's still going to be an extra turn before Alexstrasza would be able to come out. So he's got a couple turns here, even if Ice Block is drawn, to be able to push through.
He needs
just with the hero
bot.
power alone.
It's the heal bot is his last chance.
Ice Barrier doesn't help at all. And he's dead.
Yeah, I have to identify that I think if I had to choose, it might be the Ice Lance, like, just not, like, he's taking too much damage. If he could have bought health with that Ice Lance, it would have been better. Or if that Acolyte was on the board drawing more cards.
Yeah. Well, it was a pretty quick game one. Luffy is going to take it.
The thing about playing two card draw sources that you have a freezing trap is that one of them has to get hit anyways. And most likely it's going to be the Acolyte. If the Acolyte, and it has to be like 3 or more damage. Because you don't care if the Thanos gets tossed back, but you do if the Acolyte does, because that's multiple card source draws. Yeah. So what most likely would have happened is your opponent kills off Thanos and you draw a card anyways. Mm-hmm. But by isolating them one by one, it becomes this thing where you only can deal with 1 minion at a time, and you also didn't gain the health, and the freezing trap was live. Otherwise, freezing trap doesn't really get value in this matchup. What does it usually do?
Nothing.
It stops Alexstrasza from hitting the face in a desperate situation. That's about it.
Yeah. And there are some situations where Alexstrasza hitting the face opens up opportunities for lethal, but if it gets to that point, then you had a really great game up until that point against Hunter.
It's the way it falls, I guess. Yeah. And you have to also chalk it up to Koroneko not having some of the key cards that he really needed. Frostbolt came a little bit too late. Didn't really have anything like Frost Nova to stop it. Ice Bears were drawn a little bit too unfortunately late too. If the mad scientist was able to pull out the Ice Barrier instead of the Ice Block, would have bought him a little bit more time. Yeah. That kind of stuff.
I also feel like he didn't respect the damage that much in turns where he could have prevented 4 damage from Huffer or 4 damage from Piloted Shredder. Could have bought himself a couple of turns. Like on that last part, where he popped the Ice Block wouldn't have been possible. Could have maybe bought enough time to get the defensive Alexstrasza. Could have been a different game, but we're going to move on to the second match here in a moment. Luffy still has Warlock and Warrior remaining, and this seems to be the standard lineup that we've seen over the course of the last 3 days. Is Hunter, Warlock, Warrior.
Yeah,
seems to be the lineup that most of these players are going with, and I would probably have to agree that those are the 3 strongest classes at the moment.
Well, it feels like it's a pretty good opportunity for him to run over the Mage deck if he has Control Warrior too. I don't feel like Freeze Mage is that great against Handlock now. Still has to deal with the big threats. You have to get the right draws at the right time. The Doomsayer does have to get popped, but he can silence it. And if they play Ragnaros, you just get blown out. But that's pretty wishful thinking some of the times. If it's Zoo, I think there's definitely a chance for Koroneko to even out the series. But first, before we see that, we'll have the Warlock versus the Warrior.
Yeah, either way, I think that the Mage from Koroneko might have a tough time. Whether it's Control Warrior or Grim Patron Warrior. Grim Patron Warrior, I think, is still just as good. You don't have as many ways to gain armor, but it looks like it is going to be Grim Patron.
Yeah, Patron Warrior is really powerful and effective. Loot Hoarders seem to be the inclusion of choice here. There's a few people who just differentiate themselves. Some people play the Inner Rages and the Loot Hoarders to be a little bit faster. Some people play Sludge Belchers and Gromosh to be a little bit more late game oriented.
Yeah.
Which list do you personally like, TJ?
Commanding Shout is probably my favorite, just because like using Commanding Shout, lots of card draw early on with Loot Hoarders, but then curving out with larger bodies later on, like Piloted Shredder. So I run 2 Loot Hoarders, 1 Commanding Shout, 1 Piloted Shredder, 1 Dread Corsair, no Gnomish Inventors, and 1 Inner Rage. So that's my favorite. I think it's got a good balance, and I think Commanding Shout's the only way you can beat a lot of decks. Well, not a lot of decks. Handlock specifically. There's a lot of handlock on the ladder right now.
Job's done.
There is. That's partially why I think Hunter is so effective on ladder.
And Hobgoblins and Warbots as well. Thrown in there.
Those are the most effective. In fact, I believe you're undefeated with Hobgoblin Warrior against me.
Against you, yeah. Undefeated.
Yeah. And I'm undefeated against ladder. Actually, I lost once.
With my Hobgoblin Warrior?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying on ladder today.
Okay.
I've been undefeated, but I actually did lose once.
That Shaman
It
just
feels
got
good.
you.
I was experimenting a ton with dragons. I was getting like a 55% win rate. I was like winning 3 games,
55%.
losing 2, and then like winning 3 and then losing 3, like that kind of streaks.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Maybe it's just time to play a little bit of that hybrid hunter and learn the deck. And then before I knew it, 20 minutes later, I won 10 games in a row.
20 minutes later. The deck does play pretty fast.
So the Control Warrior normally has difficulty setting up against the handlock in a way that's significant. That way, like the threats you have to deal with, like small minions. But
Yeah.
no, there are things like Frothing Berserkers and ways to set it up so that way you're pretty decent against the handlock as the Patron Warrior.
It's really tough because you basically have to set up a turn where you can get through a wall with Execute or just your weapons and other creatures and then push through for damage with a really big Frothing Berserker. Without Commanding Shout, to be able to just preserve the health of all the creatures that you have on the board by getting through the wall, it's really tough to find opportunities where the stars align enough for you to push through later in the game with that kind of stuff. I have seen blowout wins early on with Grim Patron Warrior facing off against Handlock where you just get so aggressive with your weapons early and then close it out with like Frothing Berserker, Inner Rage, with a Despite, and you can allow it to take so much damage, but that rarely happens. This matchup is super tough.
It hasn't gotten to that point yet, though, where he can say, this is Patron. Well, I guess the Loot Hoarder. Loot Hoarder actually revealed everything.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be really hard, though. You don't know until, especially...
like turn 7.
Yeah, especially since just saying list with the Sludge Belcher.
Yeah.
Sometimes it curves out. They're like, oh, well, I'm just going to use Armor Smith, Cruel Taskmaster, Acolyte of Pain, Despite into Sludge Belcher. You're like, oh, okay, it's Control Warrior.
Right. And then Thorson drops down. You're like, okay, still kind of borderline. And
then you die.
I'll fight, count me in. It's like, oh, jeez. So you can deal with this Sludge Belcher and create Grim Pages, but you set perfectly into Hellfire. Your own Sludge Belcher is not too bad. In fact, you kill off the Ancient Watcher with the Whirlwind effect. And by playing the Sludge Belcher now, you set up so that Thorson can be stronger next turn.
Yeah. In a lot of matchups, you want to preserve Grim Patrons, and you don't want to, since that's a lot of what plays into your win conditions, is making big boards with Grim Patrons. But I think you can be very liberal with your Grim Patron usage in the Handlock matchup, because you want them to have awkward turns early on with Hellfire. Like, you want them to Hellfire early on one Grim Patron as opposed to Hellfiring later when you're like pushing for damage. And also, if you don't do much here, it allows them to build a big threat. Like, if you put out a Mountain Giant here or a Twilight Drake and you didn't have a way to deal with it, it would be useless. And the Grim Patrons are not your main win condition against Handlock.
It's Frothing Berserker.
It's Frothing Berserker.
So then if he Hellfires here, you can't develop a minion. Versus the Sludge Belcher, he could develop a minion because he can't get past it anyways.
Yeah.
In fact, because he didn't develop Sludge Belcher, he can't play like the Emperor.
Yeah.
Now he has to Hellfire. Does he tap?
So many possibilities.
I think you're free to tap. You don't really have that many threats other than Thorson. And Drax is just really far away. You're not really going to play it
Yeah.
as a threat.
No, you're worried about huge. I don't. You could even just play Thorson here.
You think so?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're
I
not
feel
worried
like
about.
if he drops War Song Commander and Frothing Berserker on 6 mana, which is possible.
He would only have like 10 damage.
Feels like you're asking for trouble by doing that.
Yeah. I suppose.
What about just War Song Commander and just Whirlwinds? Not forget the Frothing Berserker, just like Whirlwinds and just kill him.
Yeah.
But all these decisions are starting to snowball upon each other. Luffy now gets an easy way to play Thorson. Koroneko has to deal with that. He's going to deal with by playing his own Thorson.
Yeah. This could be one of those games. If I was Luffy, I would start thinking about pushing for damage sooner rather than later.
Well, you set up Deathbite and you have Gromosh next turn.
Yeah. You sort of have to put your opponent on having the right answers in this matchup. You have to play the aggressor. You have to be the one that sort of dictates the pace of the game instead of trying to like set up huge combos. You preserve cards like Frothing Berserker unless you know you're going to get really great damage out of it, and you preserve cards like Warsong Commander. But you know that it's eventually going to get to the point where your opponent is going to be able to build up a wall. It's just so hard to play around that type of thing with this deck that sometimes it can be really enticing just to try and push for damage while you can and maybe just get a blowout victory on turn 8 before they have a chance to draw into a lot of their big threats.
Sure. I think Deathbite and Sludge Belcher here is okay. You just want to be able to hit it twice. So he's going to go with the Frothing Berserker instead. Oh wait, no, if he reduces the mana again, next turn he can Gromosh. Oh, he doesn't. Okay, chance of trading, huh? So I thought if he ended up hitting the face there and reducing it, he has Gromosh with a Deathbite, and then you equip another weapon and Whirlwind effect there.
This is
hit the face.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this sort of doesn't serve the same purpose, but it can sort of have the same effect.
Right, but this
where you get extra damage with the Frothing Berserker doing the thing you just mentioned by equipping Deathbite and then re-equipping another weapon.
Okay. Right. I'm just trying to calculate everything here. The Frothing Berserker would have been nice too if he could get the weapon up for the Deathbite, but he can't. And also, by not attacking, he also plays around Molten Giants, so his opponent can't drop it and then go for a big defensive play.
Yeah. So, from hand, next turn, Luffy can do 7 damage on board, plus 4 from the Deathbite, so that's 11. He could play the Armor Smith and re-equip another weapon for 3 extra damage on the Frothing Berserker for 14 total damage.
Well, he's also got just Gromosh, Fire War Axe for another 7, so that's 14. That's another 7, so 14 as well.
Yeah, that's assuming that your opponent doesn't play anything. Healbot ruins all that.
Yeah, but what Healbot allows you to do is build up this Frothing more. So that way you can like play more for the board.
Yep.
And now you can set up like a legitimate Deathbite.
Deathbite, Loot Hoarder.
Yeah, well, Deathbite hit the Lotheb, equip the Fiery War Axe, and then Sludge Belcher into the 3/4 into the 3/3. I guess I don't know if you want to hit the face though with the Frothing Berserker. Maybe it's not time for it though, because how much damage would that be? That'd be +2.
I don't know if I'd
Plus
use
1.
the Whirlwind effect yet from the Deathbite. Because you get rid of your activator for Grom. I mean, in reality, you could use
That's true.
your Frothing Berserker next turn to push through like a taunt and then use Grom as your lethal, or the other way around.
It's also a good point.
So he might just attack into the anti-heal bot with the Death Bite here.
Right.
And then play creatures and go face with his Sludge Belcher Frothing Berserker, put him at like, what, 17? Which gets rid of an opportunity for like big swing plays with Molten Giants. And then he sets up next turn where he has... Whoa! I was not expecting that.
He doesn't want to get Shadow Flame.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But by doing so, his opponent now has a little bit of breathing room because the Frothing Berserker has ended up dropping.
If Koroneko taps, it puts him in lethal range. Because he has 10 damage showing on board plus Grom, so that'd be 20.
I see.
So if he taps, then that does still give him lethal even after giving up his Frothing Berserker to play around Shadow Flame.
Yeah, kind of. You know, you can just tap, play Giant Farseer.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be too awful. In fact, that might be the strongest play he has available. He also can Rag heal. But Rag doesn't seem very powerful too. It hits a Loot Hoarder. He has Execute.
Yeah. I think Earthring Farseer is a must. Because even if he has Grom like Cool Taskmaster, like a reduced cost Grom Cool Taskmaster, that'd be 22 damage. So he needs to be above 22 damage at the end of this turn in order to stay safe. Stay safe. Tap.
I don't mind Sylvanas either, to be honest. It's you use the same amount of mana, and Sylvanas gets a little clunkier. Although you still can Sylvanas Shadow Flame. But most likely, you're not going to be stealing a minion through Sylvanas Shadow Flame. You'd be clearing the board.
Yeah.
Shadow Flame is more of like a board clear mechanism, while Sylvanas can like put pressure off and allow you to start attacking with things like the Ragnaros.
Mm-hmm.
Another really key emphasis point is like picking up that Sun Fury Protector, because before that he had no defensive cards to like shut down any kind of Grim Patron trades or Frothing Berserker win.
Well, Luffy's got a couple opportunities here to draw with the Loot Hoarder and the Acolyte of Pain. I would imagine he wants to just try and throw in this Loot Hoarder first to see if that changes anything.
Yeah.
Speak to me.
Yeah, that's true. See what he's got here. Another Whirlwind. Effect, sorry. Yeah, that's his first Whirlwind.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
He has another Whirlwind effect. He's still just a couple of points off from being able to find a way to kill his opponent, but he doesn't really have that good source of card draw here. He needs to pick up Battle Rage.
Oh, whoa.
Battle Rage would be...
Or
mint.
Execute.
Second World. At one point, you also have to decide when you're going to be able to be aggressive.
That feels like such a weak turn.
Well, kind of. He still has Grommash for 10.
Oh!
Wow, Harrison Jones. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, especially since he equipped a fresh Fire War Axe.
Yeah.
Thing is, does he want to use it on a Fire War Axe or save it for a Death Bite to not give him the opportunity to... And also, how does he... If he uses 5 mana on Harrison Jones here, what mana does he have left over to try and stabilize the rest of the board?
He's got Shadow Flame for 3.
Yeah, that's true. And Shadow Flame the Harrison after he draws with it.
Yeah, I'm thinking that you can...
That belongs in a museum.
Maybe Shadow... I'm trying to find a different target to Shadow Flame. Maybe the Owl? If you... No.
No, you can't do that.
Maybe the BGH.
If you Shadow Flame the BGH, then you're wasting... Not wasting, but you're not getting the 8 damage in from the Mountain Giant this turn. Because you have to
I
throw
don't
it
know
into
if
the
you're
slime.
concerned about racing your opponent, though. You just have to, like, outlast them.
Then why wouldn't you BGH the Harrison?
You can't actually play BGH because of the Giant Act, you know. I just realized.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
You have to target your own Giant first.
That owl's legitimately flying.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, he landed.
He needed the Harrison to get pushed off first.
Yeah.
So, looks like Luffy is 2 points off from lethal. That needed to be cool Taskmaster, and that even then he would have been short a little bit.
No, that would have been exact.
Does he have enough mana? Oh, he does have enough mana.
Yeah, would have been
Right.
exacties. And now he's in a situation where he's healthy. He can go for risks. Take some damage.
I mean, this is the risk. He's going to try and go for as much damage as possible. 13 to the face.
Wow.
But, I mean, now it's like Big Game Hunter Jiraxis healed back up to 15. Cool story, bro.
The Grom is such a weird card in the fact that like the actual Grom card is literally just Grom's face. Like every other card shows like a little bit more, you know. Like Mountain Giant has like it's torso, it's upper body.
Yeah,
Grom is just
Grom
his
took
face.
he took a selfie.
That's exactly what it is.
It's probably just a good angle for him because maybe he's put on a little bit of weight and you know, doesn't want to show it. Maybe Grom's got a little muffin top.
That's why he gets angry so easily.
Yeah. Well, too bad Harrison was used on a lowly Fiery War Axe. But he would have loved to have it in another scenario here. Luffy is in trouble, but this was a tough matchup from the beginning.
Yeah, it's so hard to piece together. And you have to like plan so many turns ahead,
Right.
and it's so hard to do unless you have ridiculous amounts of card draw in your first couple turns.
Yeah.
Because you can't guarantee that you're going to draw into any pieces. Sometimes you have to just go all out and hope that they don't have what they need to be able to deal with the board that you're putting out. But in this case, Koroneko did have all the answers. And Luffy never really made a giant push, maybe at the end there with the Grom. But there were so many things that could punish that and or survive against something like that. And he knows that that was sort of the last frontier of pressure from Luffy because he was out of cards. And he concedes.
Luffy gets stopped here in game number 2, so it's a tied series. Now, I'm looking at Koroneko's lineup, and maybe I was thinking about if he was targeting Patron Warrior as potentially the deck that he wants to snipe. So he's got Freeze Mage, he's got Handlock, but then I thought about Druid, and Druid, unless it's like super heavy ramp dragon taunt Druid, which isn't out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Higher than 0. I don't really think Druid's that great against Patron Warrior, personally speaking. He could be also playing like stupid stuff, Mill Druid that heals a bunch of stuff, Poison Seed, Starfall type of things in order to stop his opponent from flooding the board.
Seems weird, but I've been seeing a lot of Spectral Knights lately.
Spectre Knights, that's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Can't really deal with it on the Grim Patron's end. Can't execute it.
Yeah.
Weapons are really inefficient against it.
Yeah. Spectral Knight was a card that was put in a long time ago to counter warriors, but in another sense, in the control warrior, when it was a control warrior meta.
You know, Miracle Rogue had a hard time doing with it as well.
Yep. It was like guaranteed pressure the following turn because it's just so hard to remove. Yeah, I think like 4 of the last 6 druids that I've played against on the ladder
As Spectre Knight.
as Spectral Knight.
Wow.
Or maybe it was 9 out of the last 10.
It's really interesting that people are just seeing it be included by one player, and then people just are like, oh, it's a good idea, let me try that. Oh, it's a good idea, let me try that. Everyone always makes fun of Grim Patron meme for like everyone get in here, but the reality is the top of Legend is just one giant Grim Patron warrior train of net decking.
Yeah.
Everybody,
I
copy here.
I remember one of the players that played the Spectral Knight. It was Jason Zhu. Jason Zhou. He's finished number 9 Legend. So it's the same as your last name. He finished number 9 Legend last season, and he was putting Spectral Knights in his Druid, and I lost against him. Had no idea how to deal with that.
As the
I was playing Light Bomb Priest.
Light Bomb Priest.
Yeah.
Just Cabal Shadow Priest that thing with Shrinkmeister.
Yeah, about that.
Play Sylvanas.
When it comes out on turn 5. I mean, those are like ideal situations. I mean, yeah, there's ways to deal with it, but it's hard, especially for like a neutral 5-drop.
It's mind control.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah. Well,
Just do anything
First
against
you play,
him, man.
First you play Mass Dispel, and then Mind Control.
Just get better.
Play Resurrect, and then Resurrect your Sylvanas.
That I've already played in the game at turn 5.
Well, what happened was you played Alarmobot, and it pulled out Sylvanas.
Yeah.
And then Sylvanas got silenced and killed, then you resurrected.
I do play Alarmobot in my deck. It's like a reverse Deathlord. But from your hand.
And it's your minion.
Yeah.
We're going to try again. This Druid seems to be more of the faster variant, but we'll see how things pan out. Maybe Koroneko feels that Druid is a very reliable deck. It hasn't been terribly effective in our first series of the day.
It actually hasn't been that effective over the course of the weekend, or over the course of the week, at least for our tournament, the Redemption Series. I feel like Druid is one of the classes with the lowest win rates. Druid and Rogue. I mean, it's tough when you're in a world full of very strong decks. I feel like especially on Thursday, we saw almost every player bring the exact same lineup. It's tough. It's a tough world.
Do you play the Frothing Berserker here?
What's it weak to? Swipe?
Yeah, it's just Swipe. Swipe's not even inefficient because it goes 1 for 1.
Could also be weak to Pilot Shredder. He does have Deathbite as a...
Deathbite, though.
Yeah. If I didn't have Deathbite or a weapon in general, I don't think I would have played it. But you have ways to protect it. It's not... It's sort of the opposite of the handlock matchup where the Frothing Berserker, you want to make sure you hold on to it. Where in this matchup, it's like the Grim Patron is a lot of times your main win condition. Because Druids can deal with Frothing Berserkers a lot easier than they can deal with multiple Grim Patrons.
Sure. I'm always scared of leaving a Frothing Berserker, though, because it seems like there's a lot of opportunities for your opponent to abuse it. If you play Deathbite, you draw a card. I guess you draw a card first.
Or not. It doesn't. I don't know if it would ever affect his play unless he draws Fiery War Axe.
Yeah, if he draws Fiery War Axe, then he could
Play
chop
Fireworks
it down.
and Battle Rage
Yeah,
as well.
Battle Rage.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be. Yeah. Well, he gets another Deathbite, so doesn't really change things.
Now his opponent can just Wrath, but he gave up his coin for this, so now as a result, it's a little bit awkward.
Yeah, and that's one of the main things is to make the Druid's turns awkward. Because right now, what are they going to play in tandem with Wrath?
Game Hunter.
Actually,
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not play Big Game Hunter?
I may be saving it for Dr. Boom, but he's going to play it anyway.
I like that. It's cute.
Yeah.
It's like cycling it so that way you can prove your hand a little bit.
Yeah.
Although your Wraths are one of your primary ways to deal with the patrons. You'd rather have 2 Wraths than another card, but
Yeah.
the truth is it does help him dig to a better answer. He doesn't know if he was going to draw Thorson next turn.
Yeah, like double Wrath Keeper is usually the most effective way to deal with the board full of patrons. You usually end up trading like 3 for 3 in that scenario because a lot of times they're using like second charge of Deathbite, Inner Rage, and Grim Patron, or
A Whirlwind or something.
Whirlwind, Inner Rage, Grim Patron. So you can be sort of weird and inefficient with your removal because a lot of times the warrior is weird and inefficient with their cards in order to gain more Grim Patrons.
Speaking of which, Patron is in the hand. So will Thorson be dropped down. Unless he wants to silence us to deny more card draw.
The Thorson is good, but these cards are not the best. I mean, of course, it's like 2 Innervates and a coin that you're getting, regardless. And he is reducing 1 piece of the combo. I've seen better Thorsons.
How about Thorsoning back? Is that 2? Nah, I guess you can just Deathbite, draw a card, Thorson next turn. Deathbite actually is a better setup here. Because now you can always be threatening for the Whirlwind effect.
What now?
Well, I don't know, because if you don't Thorson here, you Thorson next turn, that's a long time before you're able to start pushing out stuff. You Thorson this turn, you actually have Warsong Grim Patron the next turn.
Yeah,
Plus something else.
Yeah, but there's nothing really to... There's nothing really to set up.
Dr. Boom comes out on turn 7.
Yeah, I think Despite's still a little bit better here. Like keeping your opponent, letting your opponent keep Thurston twice as a Druid is like one of the ways for them to come back. Because the problem with Druid in a lot of cases is that they can't do everything.
Yep.
Can't remove the board, ant it up, and posture yourself for lethal. It's really difficult unless they get like innervates.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice card.
Off the tippity top. And since Ancient of Lore came off the top, it's going to stay there.
How poetic. We don't even get to see the cards being drawn because he played it so fast. And now we get to see the choices. Does he play the Grim Patron? Does he play the Thorson? Thorson seems to be the best course of action.
Yeah.
You get to reduce so many expensive cards here.
You only get one Grim Patron. I guess you can Battle Rage? Actually, let's see.
What's crazy is that there's no Whirlwind effect, so you don't really get too much benefit off of the Grim Patron immediate synergy, but
Yeah, it's
just
just
imagine
two.
what it can do with other stuff.
Yeah. There's also a chance that he's got to start worrying about combo, because he's at 15 health.
It's true, and his opponent did Thorson, so he has a realistic chance of having Force Nature, Savage Roar, and a Hero Power.
Yeah.
And he can't do that next turn.
Oh, well, that's a Ragnaros. It's invisible. There it is.
And it shoots the Thorson, so that means he has a little bit of health to work with.
Wow.
So he might have to slam for an option, and he needs to pick up Execute.
If he doesn't pick up Execute, he can flood the board. But it's very dangerous. Wow.
Yes. Looks like Sludge Belcher and I guess the Acolyte of Pain. Set up the Fiery War Axe.
Mm-hmm.
And then start hitting the face. That might be his best course of action. The alternative is to try to play the less useful cards like Harrison Jones.
I wonder.
But like we were talking about, be worried about combination attacks.
Battle
Battle
Rage for
Rage?
one card?
To try to get the Execute.
Yeah, but that's... If you Battle Rage, you make your turn quite a bit weaker, because then you'd just be playing Sludge Belch. You'd just be playing one target.
Yeah.
Berserker doesn't change anything.
Mind if I roll knee?
It's going to play 2 anyway. But
Gonna get down to Swipe. Wait, hold on.
Silence,
Swipe.
Savage Roar, Swipe. I think that might be game.
With Wrath?
No,
12, 13.
he silences his
Oh, wait.
silences his
That's
rag.
definitely lethal.
Savage Roar, Swipe, yeah.
Swipe twice here.
I must
Okay, it doesn't really
safeguard the
matter.
Yeah. And that's going to do it. Koroneko finds a victory in game number 3 with the Druid over Patron Warrior.
And he's got Freeze Mage remaining. And that's going to be really challenging for Luffy to overcome, right? Freeze Mage is usually good against Patron Warrior.
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of...
Oh! He draws the Execute off of the dead Loot Hoarder. That is brutal. Luffy
Heartbreaking.
dropped game 3, and our Japanese player from Hearthlytics one game away from advancing.
Yeah, the Patron Warrior Freeze Mage matchup kind of reminds me of like Oil Rogue versus Freeze Mage.
Yeah.
The Patron Warrior is sort of doing their own thing until they piece together a big burst combo. They can put pressure out a little bit earlier, similar to what Oil Rogue does, and then they're trying to put on pressure and pop the block as quick as they possibly can. Whereas the one thing that makes a difference is Patron Warrior a lot of times just armors up in the early game instead of putting 1 damage and redaggering. So
Gotcha.
it's a little bit better, but still is a rough matchup.
It is because the flip side is there are ways for Patron Warrior to fight against Freeze Mage. Sometimes it reminds me of Control Warrior, where it just
Whoa! I never thought I'd heard you say
you
that.
armor up a bunch,
Aw.
and then you just have Armor Smith gain value.
Yeah.
But the thing about it, the difference between the controller is the pressure that it can put on.
Yeah.
Not to mention that Thorson, like what if he doesn't have a way to deal with Thorson, just reduces the card counts, you start pressuring a lot, and you don't have the Flame Strike, you don't have the Doomsayer, you just have, burn, 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 burn. It's possible for him to draw really awkwardly. It's going to be hard, though. And after all of that, Luffy still has his Warlock class, which should be hard to win if he's playing Zoo.
Which I think is more likely. I've seen Luffy play Zoo more than I've seen Luffy play Handlock. But then again, I mean, I talk about that a lot. That could mean that it opens up a really good opportunity for him to play handlock and surprise his opponents. But it's an uphill battle from here. He's got a couple tough matchups ahead of him. If it is handlock, it's quite a bit different of a matchup than Zoo. It can deal with Freeze Mage usually a lot better. With huge boards, lots of pressure, ways to deal with Doomsayer, ways to heal back up, stall out the game with things like Lotheb, even Jiraxis. But we'll have to get to that after this game if Koroneko doesn't even manage to take this one. But we are going to jump into game number 4. Freeze Mage versus Patron Warrior. Patron Warrior.
That's right. The highest quality of tequila. We have 2 draw mechanisms, Mad Scientist and Acolyte Pain. You can imagine that Ice Block gets tossed back. Blizzard is very meh, so just go ahead and toss it and get it back anyways. That's what Mulligans means. Emperor Thorson, pretty important card to grab if you want to start putting pressure on, but still a little bit too early to draw him. I'd rather just get his loot hoarders.
Yeah. Yeah, he needs to try and make as big of a hand as possible for that Emperor Thor's hand. Because he wants to open up options, and he wants to draw into burst combos. Hoard means nothing. It's all about trying to piece together ways for you to deal, like, instant damage.
Right.
Or gain absurd amounts of armor. Like, those are the 2 primary win conditions.
Yeah, it's really tempting to try and go greedy with your own Acolyte on curve, but you have to deny the draw. That's one of the ways your opponent can beat you in this game / series. Just keep drawing with Patron Warrior.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Patron Warrior struggle this much in a long time.
Well,
Since my days of practicing with Patron Warrior, I haven't seen it struggle this much.
yeah. I always like to bring up the fact that you were the pioneer of Patron Warrior.
Oh, thank you.
The pioneer.
Not one of them.
No, the pioneer.
The pioneer? All right. I was a trailblazer in many ways.
The first ever competitive player to play Patron Warrior in a large-scale tournament was Frodan.
Dan.
Fro.
Christopher Columbus Dan.
Fro Dan the Man Dan.
I haven't heard that one before.
Oh, you just heard it now, so that's a lie.
Battle Rage for 1 card. Gets an Armor Smith, pretty important. But now we have Coin Thorson! Or is he? Oh, wait. Yeah, he has 5 mana. Sorry. Thorson was also hiding behind Flame Strike because he's shy.
Yeah.
And actually, no, you can just ping the Acolyte.
Or because he wants to make an entrance.
He can ping the Acolyte because his opponent has a Death Spite out. He doesn't necessarily just want to waste it.
Yeah.
It's better.
Getting
the card draw is just more valuable because Thorson works better. Oh.
It's potential for him to overdraw.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Ah, it's a good heads-up play. Potential to overdraw. Of course, guys like Reyna don't care about it. Just usually pings it anyways.
Yeah.
Overdraws and burns Alex Straza. Seems to happen like every time to him.
Okay, so that makes a big difference. Like one of the, I mean, well, sometimes there's a small difference. Freeze Mage is the deck that gets punished the most from burning key cards because there's some cards that are just absolutely crucial for them to pick up victories, like Alex Straza, like Archmagia Tinnitus, or like a burn spell.
Yeah,
a lot of
that don't matter, like Hunter.
Yeah, anything that you can put Fell Reaver in.
Yeah, mech decks.
Yeah, but a lot of good Freeze Mage players will always, before they draw, count their cards and see, is there any possibility that my opponent can mill me?
Yeah.
And we'll always play accordingly around that. But he's not going to go for the
I mean, he could overdraw him still, right?
But it would...
If he like Whirlwind and Interrage and stuff like that. But it's
Yeah.
not worth it. That's a lot of cheap cards, man. He can play his entire hand next turn for 4 mana?
Yeah.
What? All right.
Wait. No, I was going to say, does he have lethal next turn?
No
If he
way.
drew into a Warsong Commander,
Fair enough.
he could Warsong Commander and play his whole hand, which is Whirlwind, Interrage, have an Armor Smith on the board, execute whatever's on the opponent's side.
Sure.
Wouldn't be lethal, but it would be a lot of pressure. But too bold of a play.
He plays his Thorson. I was wondering if he could play Fireball and then Doomsayer, so then Thorson would go and contest next turn. This is bold. He's not even reducing the cost of cards that are like super, super high impact other than Flame Strike.
Yeah. There's some burn spells in there. A 9-mana Pyroblast can sometimes be pretty good because you can fit in Pyroblast and like a Frostbolt.
Right. This does give him a next play for Doomsayer on Blizzard for the following turn. And maybe he can bait out Execute. But his opponent has 2 Executes. 2 Armor Smiths come in the hand. This is starting to look better for Luffy by the card.
Yeah.
Or by the turn, excuse me.
Yeah, this is actually a really great hand. He's got Froth and Berserker for those big burst turns. He's got both the key cards for his 2 win conditions in the matchup. He's going to be able to make an absurd amount of armor if he so chooses in the next couple turns.
Luffy be thirsty.
Oh, man. I just realized that Frothing Berserker's eyes aren't the red dots.
No, it's like paint.
Yeah, it's like his eyes are below that. I just realized that. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Weird. Just like that moment where I realized Shade of Naxxramas' head is not on the bottom half of the cards, and the top left of the card. That is a lot of armor, by the way. And he might even gain more with the Flame Strike comes down. Here's another thing, though. The deck does tend to draw a lot, too, so it just could run out of threats at one point. Battle Rage for 0. I mean, that's almost all of his hand, though. Frost Nova Doomsayer is also pretty good for the future turns, but I think you Flame Strike this, right?
Yeah.
You have Thaunos and Blizzard too. That even might be better. So you can keep Flame Strike and you can set up for a card draw.
So if you Doomsayer and Frost over here, you're actually denying a lot of health. How is he going to deal with that? And even if he does deal with it, what's the problem?
Well, if you Frost Nova Doomsayer, he attacks the weapon and then executes.
Yeah, but why is that bad?
Because he gains a bunch of armor.
Oh yeah, from the Whirlwind effect.
Right. And then, I mean, he might even just Battle Rage now, draw 5 cards, drop more minions, and then execute. Oh, man. Second Frothing Berserker. So he just needs to get his Warsong Commander. Gets like a bunch of damage. This is so many cards.
Yeah,
0 mana, draw 5.
Yeah,
Strictly better than Auctioneer.
with the Doomsayer, he was sort of putting him on not having second execute.
Oh, he's going to Inner Rage and just like smack the Doomsayer.
Pylon.
Oh, he's just going to use the 0 mana execute. Fair enough.
Yeah. And start putting on some deeps. Puts him at 11 health.
Yeah, I think the Doomsayer was just really greedy.
Yeah. It's putting him on not having second execute, but that's...
Oh my goodness. Especially because you didn't freeze his face, so he was able to get another round of armor.
Koroneko saying, well, last game it took you 15 cards and you never even drew an execute.
And this Thorson's still reducing cards. All right.
That first Inner Rage costs like -3 mana right now.
Yeah. Now I guess you just Blizzard. Blizzard and what's tucked underneath that Flame Strike? Pyroblast for 9?
Yeah. You Blizzard, you give him 10 armor.
Yeah. Blizzard,
What
Mad
to
Scientist,
do? What to do?
pass. It's the best you can do. And then hope your opponent doesn't have the Warsong Commander.
10 armor, Dan.
10 armor brings him to 47 health.
57
No,
health.
57 health.
He's going to have more armor than health. How do you even... 57 points of damage is hard for a Freeze Mage to do, even if nothing is happening on the board. Like, even if you gave the Freeze Mage the entire game to do 57 points of damage, it would still be difficult. Like, just to nothing. Just to, like, a target dummy.
Yeah.
Like, say, here's a target dummy. I'm going to leave for 20 minutes. You have 20 minutes to do 57 damage to this target dummy. It would still be hard.
Freeze Mage just might not have that much damage enough. He's got to play the Mad Scientist here, I imagine. He needs to get in some way to do damage. Oh, the Mad Scientist, though, is vulnerable to a Grim Patron combo.
Yeah, there's... Oh, I guess there's room on the board now. Actually...
There's quite some space on the board. If he draws Warsong Commander, I think it's lethal, by the way, right?
Well,
Frothing
there's
Berserker.
an ice block, so...
Oh, you're right. There's an ice block. So it'd be like...
You can pop the
lethal
block.
Popping. But that's... I don't know if you want to pop with 11 damage, right?
Yeah, because once you pop, the fun don't stop.
Well played, sir. Dr. Boom coming down here. Dr. Boom makes a lot of sense. You can even set up the loot hoarder so you can draw an extra card and hopefully tap into that that War Song bank in your card deck.
And then he can even armor up, bring himself
It's
to
really like armoring up
almost
is so
60
key.
health. It reminds me so much of Control Warrior.
Stop it.
I'm blushing right now because I'm just so turned on by the Control Warrior play.
You are a weird dude sometimes, man.
I know. You said something the other day. You said, I want to get into your brain for like one day just to see what your thoughts are like.
No, I said imagine spending one day in your head.
Oh, I thought you said you'd want to. I was like, you're crazy if you want to.
Well, I guess that mad scientist did a little bit of something.
Yeah.
All right, so this ice block and ice barrier has 19 health effective. That's a pretty good card. Antonitis Coin Frost Nova, also pretty effective too, but he's got some work.
Even if he managed to stabilize the board, he's throwing burn into threats instead of into face. Armor
Right.
up's going to happen every turn.
Interesting. Very interesting. Frost Nova Doomsayer. Doomsayer's not even 100% secured.
Well, he's been through both executes. You'd have to use some type of War 1 effect or like War Song Commander and
Right.
throw something into it to be able to kill it. This is about the safest time you're ever going to be able to play
I
the
think
Doomsayer.
I'd Frost Nova Doomsayer and then ping the Gromosh.
Just to set it up for a Flame Strike in case things go horribly, horribly wrong.
No, not if, when.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about paying the face here. Paying the face is directly ignorant of like Doomsayer not like 100% guaranteed working. When we know, like, there's a really strong chance with Dr. Boom.
But he's also like, I need to take out 3% of his health.
That's true. Would you let this go? Just drop Loot Hoarder, armor up?
The only other option is to pop Dr. Boom and hope the boom bots hit for
Yeah.
2 boom bots hit for at least 3 damage on the.
But no,
Doomsayer.
at least 1 damage, because then you interrage the Doomsayer.
Okay, yeah. I see.
Okay, so he ends up just passing here. Or is he? He still has time. It's true that he could.
That's actually really likely. You have a 50 or a 75% chance that one of them hits the Doomsayer.
That's true. You're anticipating your opponent to play Alex Straza next turn, because that's usually what happens. They set up Doomsayer for Alex Straza and then do some combos.
But if it doesn't hit the Doomsayer, you just gave up like big threat.
Yeah.
You just gave up like all of your damage.
Second ice block, and then no Alex Straza, so I guess it's Archmage time. Archmage, Fireball, and Coin. Or actually, you Coin and Fireball with the one that's 4 damage. Much better.
All right, 7 cards left in the Mage's hand, or in the Mage's deck. 8 cards left in Luffy's deck. They're going through their decks at even paces.
He was at 60 health, so if he can do 60 damage, maybe. But now he's in a similar situation. It's like, well, I guess I got to hit this Antonitis and maybe try to kill it. What else is he supposed to do?
I don't know. Okay, so if he doesn't kill the Archmage Antonitis this turn,
Right.
he takes 5 damage from swinging into the Archmage Antonitis.
Dr. Boom dies because he fireballs it.
Dr. Boom dies because he fireballs it. He replaces that damage. He's got 22 damage in his hand right now, 27 from the Archmage Antonitis. He'd have to live for
Alex Straza does 13,
13.
so 40.
So
But he still
40.
needs to find a dude. He still has to find another way to do 15 damage.
So either Archmage Antonitis would have to live for 1 more turn after that, or...
No.
Hey!
Is he the chosen one?
No!
To face. Oh, Antonitis dies.
And I'm sure...
That's a lot less exciting.
Yeah, I'm sure Koroneko's expression is not what his
Ah, never
picture
lucky.
portrays.
Okay, so I guess you fireball this Dr. Boom then. Your absolute last hope is that Alex Straza gets repetitive damage and just hits for like 24 plus you're probably going to have to heal yourself, realistically speaking. So I think you
What to do?
you just blizzard here,
What to
ping the
do.
face.
Start chipping away.
There's really no other reason to do anything else.
I mean, there also is you have to factor in fatigue. If you get Alex Strauza down and your opponent starts taking fatigue damage and runs out of cards, there's a chance.
Okay, so he ends up using Fireball instead, opting to keep the Blizzard in case he needs to stall. But the thing is, he's not going to win the Fatigue War, TJ. I've got bad news for Koroneko.
If Alex Strauza lives and he can swing with it. He's only drawn one more card.
It's true.
He's going to hit fatigue one turn faster.
So he's all in on the Alex Strauza.
All in on Alex Strauza, effectively.
That belongs in a museum.
Luffy will feel like he never can play with his Accolade anymore, so he's just going to play one thread at a time.
Make sure he armors up every single turn.
Mm-hmm. It's a smarter play. He can just pass. He's really calculating the odds. Oh, Acolyte is dangerous. So, oh man, if I'm Koroneko, I ping that Acolyte in Blizzard in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Let my opponent draw cards. You're not trying to outcard your opponent at this point. You're both within fatigue range in the next couple turns.
You both only have 5 cards left.
How much do we have exactly?
Well, it was
On both sides.
It was 7 for Koroneko 2 turns ago and 8 for Luffy 2 turns ago. So I'm guessing it's 5 and 6.
5?
Oh yeah, 5 because he drew one more. Yeah.
Right. You can make him go down to 3 cards here.
One of these cards is Alex Strauza in these last 5. What else is there? He's got one more Frostbolt, Ice Lance.
Uses Flame Strike because it's a little bit more mana cost. Sludge Belcher number 2. Fire War Axe.
Can he pop the block?
I mean,
4 Grim Patrons, one of which
no,
would be
one
5.
of them's an Ice Barrier, I think, right? So he's got 17 health.
No, he's got 17 damage. He can have 4 Grim Patrons, one of which has 5 damage. So that's 9 plus 5 would be 14 plus Fire War Axe is 17.
You're right.
Could have popped the block. Because he would Grim Patron, Inner Rage 1 Grim Patron to be at 5 health. He'd have a 3/3. Whirlwind. Have 4 Grim Patrons, 3 of which have 3 damage, 1 of which has 5 damage.
14 plus the Fire
14
War Axe.
plus Fireworks is 17.
Doesn't have enough mana to do that. You can't equip the Fire War Axe and do that.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. I was thinking into the last game where he had all of his Fireworks ended up being 1 mana. What kind of world do we live in if Fireworks cost 1 mana?
Oh, a world where Emperor Thorson came down this turn. You might as well start going through the Ice Barrier. You have to anyways, right?
Yeah. Can't Inner Rage
Otherwise,
face.
I mean, his Fire War Axes are 12 damage. I mean, Ice Lance is not that helpful here.
Just Pyroblast.
Well, I'd rather use Fireball and keep Fire Blast for something else. Or Pyroblast for something else.
I wonder.
Fireball. Just ping the 2/1/2. This has gotten down really slow, but now it's starting to get to the almost exciting part. So this is it, right? This is the 17 damage.
Yeah.
Warsong, Grim Patron, Inner Rage, and Whirlwind. That pops it.
He can't put him to 1.
But it's fine because he's got another Fire War Axe. But then his opponent, if the opponent has Alex Strauza and say he got Thorson, I don't know. He still has a Warsong Commander, so
What's his last card? Grim Patron, right?
did he use both Frothlings already?
I think so.
So that's the second Grim Patron that's remaining. Unless it's like a spell, like I don't know if we've seen 2 Whirlwinds yet. This game's gone on for a really long time.
Yeah. It's starting to mesh with the last 2 games.
Yeah, he's got to go. It's time to do it. No, he doesn't pop the ice block. Says I'm just gonna wait out the long game.
It's more than likely that even if he just armors up from
Yeah.
here on out, he's still going to have a good chance.
I would love it if just like he said, screw Alex Straza, I have Nefarian in this deck. Nefarian gets like...
Well, you couldn't even get any spells that would help you at all. From a warrior?
From a warrior? Shield block. Oh. For some reason, I thought it was going to hit the 1/1 because it's just the animation, but...
Yeah, it is Grim Patron.
Okay. Yeah, really smart to get that Pyroblast out of the way. It's just going to be sitting there for a while.
Well, he's in the same situation he is this turn than he was last turn. He could pop the block if he wants. I think he's mousing over the armor up right now, actually. I saw the glow slightly increase in potency.
I'm actually still really surprised he hasn't started swinging with the Fiery War Axes to get through the armor, which is necessary anyways. Alex Strauss is a really key card here. Alex Strauss is the face! That's how confident he is. He's contemplating using Ice Lance so that he can stall and hopefully his opponent doesn't have a way to deal with it. And now, no more Ice Block pop.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I feel like Luffy might have lost his opportunity to win the game, but we're about to see if he can still do this because the Whirlwinds and the Grim Patrons allow him to deal with the Alex Straza.
That's all he needs to do, really. Once Alex Straza's dead, how is he going to kill him? The Acolyte of Pain needs to live.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Wait, what's the remaining card from?
Frostbolt.
Oh, yeah, Frostbolt. So he doesn't have enough burn. This is what he was waiting for, actually, sitting on the Alex Straza removal.
Yeah.
Both players were just waiting for their opponents.
Yeah. Frostbolt and Ice Lance, maybe?
Ice Lance number 2.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just whip out Malygos out of nowhere.
He still wouldn't win. Well, if Malygos could swing, yeah.
Think so?
But, I mean, he's... Because he's got to have a turn to develop, and then his block's going to get popped, and you would have the second one. Maybe.
I wonder if Luffy's just going to, like, never attack into the armor of Ice Barrier.
Just wait for fatigue.
Yeah.
Considering he could have popped the block last turn and still have exactly the same second Warsong and Grim Patron to deal with this.
Okay. No Whirlwind. There's the Frostbolt. 35 damage. How many turns does his opponent need to take? Because he's got... Alright, whatever. Just go for it.
Yeah.
I was trying to do some math, but it's really hard to do it without being able to see it. 25 health. He's going to take a second fatigue damage.
This is why not many people play Freeze Mage on ladder.
Right. 2.
He's getting there.
And if Luffy just armors up, if he armors up and he just lets fatigue do his damage, that's 4 turns before it just guaranteed kills. Because you can't have the secret activate on your turn, so Ice Block will not pop. And that means in 4 turns, that's 5 turns from now. If he can survive 5 turns of fatigue damage, which is 3 plus 4, that's 7, plus 5, that's 12, plus 6 is 18 damage. Yeah, he's fine.
He's got Flame Strike.
No. But the thing is, there's like, as long as Luffy just armor up passes, there's no way for him to lose this game.
Okay.
As long as he just keeps armor up passing. He might, if he like decides to attack spontaneously and just choose to... Yeah, this is also the reason why Frostbolt in the face was not a good idea, because he also just lost his ability to use Ice
Yeah,
Lance.
he wanted to protect his block or with the weapon. He just wanted to stop the weapon from attacking, I think.
Irrelevant. You need that damage. Koroneko has definitely not been able to pressure, or not be able to withstand the pressure enough. And Luffy ends up cornering Koroneko with the Grim Patron. That was a pretty brutal game, man.
Yeah. Especially just the length of it alone is pretty devastating for Koroneko to try and scrape for an opportunity for him to find a way back in that game.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty much all in on Alex Straza.
Yeah.
As soon as it was removed, all hope was just stripped away.
I also was not really happy with how Koroneko used some of his spells. He ended up sitting on Blizzard and Flame Strike for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's because he was using things like Fireballs for removal on things when he really could have set up for like better Flame Strikes, better Blizzards, and then use that damage to potentially give him the opportunity. So, like, say that Ice Lance got damage in. That was 4 damage. Say he used his other Fireball that he used on Grommash when he could have set it up for instead. That's another 10 damage. And then you invite him into the race where you're pinging him every turn, and you start taking a lot of fatigue damage because it's very clear that he's not activating your Ice Barrier.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, he had 18 damage that he would have taken by the time that he would have died. And he had 25 at that time, which means that if you shredded that remaining 8 health with a 10 damage burn, and you're pinging him every turn over the course of 3 turns, he had 13 to 14 damage. He would have been gaining 3 or 4 life. He had the win there. But of course, that's 15 turns in advance. Like, if you can plan that far ahead as your Koroneko, then you're like a Freeze Mage god.
Yeah.
But because he's only thinking about the immediate, he ended up not doing it. Now, of course, we have the luxury as commentators to know that because we see both hands. And we also have hindsight. So we have 2 tools that are unfair.
Yeah. OP. Commentators OP. But we are going to move into game number 5 here. Koroneko still has to find one with this Freeze Mage, and this is the first time we're going to be seeing the Warlock from Luffy. Don't know if it's Zoo yet, don't know if it's Handlock. We can make some guesses, but until we see that opening hand, we'll never know for sure. 2 completely different matchups against Freeze Mage. Freeze Mage very strong against Zoo. But Handlock does have a lot of tools to be able to take down a Freeze Mage. With cards like Anti-Keelbot, Lotheb to buy some turns, Ruin power turns for Freeze Mage. Even cards just like putting out a lot of pressure earlier. Like if they can get a couple Mountain Giants, Twilight Drakes, and then use Owls to protect them from Doomsayers. Things like that make it can make it pretty tough for Freeze Mages to pull ahead. And it is going to be Handlock.
All right, so you were saying that you felt like Luffy was more of a Zoo player, but he ends up whipping out the Handlock. And the Handlock is much better suited to fight against the Freeze Mage than Zoo, in my opinion. Lotheb, a very important keep. Big Game Hunter just kind of sits there until Alexstrasza comes out. If he has 2, he might even drop it early.
All right, so keys for this matchup are to put lots of pressure out earlier if you're the Handlock. Try and draw into those big threats. I mean, it's pretty standard for most matchups as Handlock. Drawing into those Mountain Giants, drawing into those Twilight Drakes. And then protecting them from Doomsayer.
Yeah.
Owl's a good card.
Owl's good for the silence on the Doomsayer. Ancient Watcher, because you're going to be tapping anyways, and then on turn 4, you don't really have anything else to do.
Mm-hmm.
You can keep the coin, so that way you can coin Thorson. Would you consider... No, it's not. That's kind of ridiculous.
So
I
you're
was
going to say
wondering, like,
Owl, the Ancient Watcher?
No, I was thinking like a few turns ahead of like, would you play Lotheb to set up the Thorson? But I think Lotheb's just like, that's a waste of it.
Yeah. You can use it to protect the board. Or even to just buy one more turn later on.
I feel like the pressure done through the Iron Beak Owl on the Ancient Watcher is minimal, because you're just going to use Fireball. You're going to be tapping anyways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, he's going to go for it. It's sort of forcing inefficient plays. I mean, if you're having to Fireball this, then you're not really developing anything or drawing cards. Now he doesn't have a way to deal with it, so he's going to be taking 6 damage the following turn as well.
I would have considered even using Ice Lance there. You're losing a lot of health.
I might even Lotheb right now. You Lotheb, you guarantee, almost guarantee at least 9 damage next turn. Yeah.
I agree.
Job's done.
That's a pretty big deal. This is a lot of pressure being put out really early on by Luffy. Not something you usually see Handlock players do. This sort of is reminiscent.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This is actually so much damage.
Let the pain speak to
Seen
me.
it.
Ping the Owl because he needs to stop taking damage. Defender's pretty strong. Just more damage onto the board.
You can put him at sub 10 health.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. This is like more aggression than you would even deal with from like a Zoo Warlock.
Sludge Belcher's on curve. Defender of Argus is just more power immediately, so you can do 11 damage instead of 9.
Well, Doomsayer comes out next turn. It's not going to have any way to deal with it, but some of this damage has already been done. It's going to be hard to find a way to play defensively for the rest of the game around yourself having only like 10 health. Frost Nova Doomsayer almost is a necessity.
Yeah, he can't get away with Thorson here. He needs the secrets.
I mean, he can Frost Nova and ping his Frost Nova Loot Hoarder and then Doomsayer the next turn.
So what is he just needs Siphon Soul or Silence of some kind? I mean, I think Luffy's put enough pressure where he can just tap, kind of like let things go.
Yeah.
And the 1/2 still survives, so that's another target on the board.
He's got Dark Bomb as well. A little bit of extra burn.
Yeah. No, it's really useful to have damage from the hand. If you ever get down to 1, then you just need to ice, like pop the ice block.
Yeah. Emperor Thor's hand is actually really strong. Just because he's going to be able to do multiple things in the next coming turns.
Oh, that's crazy.
He needs to be able to stop incoming damage at the same time trying to draw into like secrets like Ice Barrier, Ice Block in the next couple turns. Because he's taken so much damage this far that he doesn't have the luxury of being able to make like full draw turns. Like a lot of times early on in Freeze Mage, you have turns where the only thing you do is draw, and it just allows you to draw into more options quicker. But now his play sort of has to split in between drawing and making sure that he deals with the pressure from the board because he's taken so much damage already.
He can deal with this Thorson. He used to play Sylvanas instead. I guess that way he can maybe steal it, but he can also attack into Thorson, Hellfire, and Mortal Coil. It's just that his follow-up play after that is not that great, and he doesn't want to put himself within potential killing range.
Yeah.
In fact, if he used Hellfire and tapped, he also might be within killing range if his opponent drew Fireball. 2 Emperor Thorson turns. That's really scary.
But he's also very close to being able to kill his opponent.
Hey,
Sylvanas is really hard to deal with right now because you can't like remove the board because then you're giving up your Emperor Thorsan.
you don't have to though.
You can make a play like Sylvanas is sometimes a liability to play against Freeze Mage just because you can Doomsayer and then Fireball it to remove, but there's nothing really to remove here. So playing it on a board like this is actually probably the strongest way you can play it against Freeze Mage.
How much damage is this? If he has Thanos, he's got 14, 2 Ice Lances and a Frostbolt.
Yeah.
So I'd actually consider using Frost Nova here, right? And setting up Mad Scientist. Alright, so he wants to use this to set up so big order instead.
It's only one target as well. Kind of feels weird to use it on one target. Ice Lance is burn though.
Yeah, it's burn, but he gets to put out minions, which is the equivalent of burn. An owl means he dies. Well, he's 1 damage off lethal. Or am I missing something? Does he have lethal?
No. Can't. He wouldn't even have enough mana, even if you could Mortal Coil the face.
You can Hellfire and Dark Bomb your Sylvanas, steal Thorson.
Steal a 1 health Thorson.
Meanwhile, your opponent draws 2 cards, gets a secret up.
Yeah.
Hellfire, Mortal Coil is also appropriate if you just want to, keep things alive.
Yeah.
So finally, the secret has been drawn.
We'll see what it
Sunfrey
is.
Protector is meh. Does he want to tap into anything? He's been trying to avoid tapping at all costs here, apparently.
Shields up.
He doesn't really have a need to.
Yeah, he's trying to get as much board presence so he can potentially pop the block.
All right, it is Ice Block.
All right, so if I'm Koroneko, no worries. Just go ahead, Flame Strike, play Mad Scientist, or even the Arcane Intellect.
Yeah.
Everything is fine. You're at 7 health. What is he going to do? Oh, he might rag. If he rags, if you're afraid of rag, you can play Mad Scientist.
think you play Mad Scientist regardless. How is he gonna? He needs to.
I'm actually kind of perplexed that he's not flame striking here. I think he's trying to see if he can calculate Archmage Antonitis damage, perhaps?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Archmage Antonitis, and no, he can't do that.
Archmage
too risky.
Antonitis Frost Nova, and then...
That's really risky. You're putting your opponent on not having anything to be able to kill off their own Sylvanas. Because if they steal your Archmage Antonitis, that's pretty much game over.
Okay, so he uses his Frostbolt here and ends up trying to use his Antonitis so he can accumulate another Fireball. I gotta admit, TJ, I'm really baffled by some of these plays.
Yeah.
These are some of the plays that I'm least expecting here because he's giving up Burn, which is what he uses to get past Handlock, to acquire more Burn, which is more expensive, when he has Thanos in hand. The big question mark is because Thanos, with Frostbolt, Ice Lances, and a Fireball, is 21 damage, and you got 4 out of those 5 cards reduced. So if you picked up any Fireball, you could have been able to squeeze up to 27 damage.
He seems very hesitant to use the Flame Strikes in both games now. He's held on to those. Last game, you mentioned he had Blizzard and Flame Strike in his hand at the end of the game.
Them. I wonder if he's mentally blocking out Flame Strike, but it's definitely something that I think if Koroneko had to reevaluate and he ends up not using this Flame Strike, it ends up being a thing like, well, what are you saving it for? Giants are not going to be affected by Flame Strike. You can't Flame Strike twice in a turn. Now, interestingly enough, despite all this, there's no way to actually deal with the Antonitis.
Almost out of time.
How much damage is that next turn?
Let's see.
21?
Is that?
He has to kill the Mad Scientist.
Dark Bomb,
yeah.
Mad Scientist.
Just in order to prevent lethal.
Wait,
oh,
what?
What?
Oh man,
He didn't play
wasn't
Mad
expecting
Scientist.
the Thanos.
Oh yeah, Thanos. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, that ends the game.
Wow.
Series, and Luffy is out.
And
And
Koroneko.
a couple of steps on both ends where it just ends up being the thing that cost them. You know, using that silence really early on the Ancient Watch to pressure. Cool idea, but Handlock's not known to be a class that can do that.
No. There was a turn where he was 1 damage off lethal, but he didn't have the silence to protect anything on his board.
Sure. And there's just a lot of versatile uses of it. And in the same time, he ends up using things like his Sun Fury Protector to try and get that board. Because he committed to that line of play where he just pressures opponents out of the game. But because of that, he dropped things like Sun Fury Protector. And you know, as a result, Archmage Antonitis hit the face that turn. These type of things, the decisions end up compounding each other. Not the cleanest series played on both ends. It was actually very scrappy and a little bit dirty on both ends. But in the end, Koroneko advances to the round of 4, and that is our second series of the day. Quite the contrast from the first one. That was a slugfest. Yeah, that really was. And to be honest, it looked like Koroneko was sort of on the back foot there. Yeah.
And decisions he was making were a little bit bizarre, but he ends up pulling it out. I made a mistake earlier saying that the winner of this match plays Luigi's, but since we had that bye earlier, Luigi's will face Roger later on. And Koroneko will actually face the winner of the next match, which is going to be the Season 1 Legendary Series Land Finals winner, Silent Storm, trying to make a return, taking on Domdis, who's a little bit of an unknown player.
Yeah, Domdis is, I think, going to have a lot in his hands, but more importantly, I think Silent Storm has a really cool lineup. I can't wait to talk about that as well. And of course, we'll see Koroneko back. I think he's going to have to go back and really evaluate because he can't win today playing like that continually. There's just too many things that ended up potentially backfiring, which somehow worked out. But there's a lot of scenarios where he could have won the series 3-1 or maybe 3-0. Depends on how things go. And that's definitely not the way he wants to play going this point forward.
Yeah, well, he's got 2 more matches to win if he wants to qualify for that land. But next matchup is going to be Silent Storm versus Domdis, and that's going to take place right after this break.
You require my assistance?